Accepted.
Translation by Srila Prabhupada. Mahārāja Parīkṣit, the grandson of the Pāṇḍavas, was from his very childhood a great devotee of the Lord. Even while playing with dolls, he used to worship Lord Kṛṣṇa by imitating the worship of the family deity. Please repeat. Mahārāja Parīkṣit, the grandson of the Pāṇḍavas, was from his very childhood a great devotee of the Lord. Even while playing with dolls, he used to worship Lord Kṛṣṇa. By imitating the worship of the family deity.
Okay, so let's see if we can get this right. Hope I'm going to unmute the right Gauda. Okay, Gauda, can you say something?
Hare Krishna.
All right, there we go. All right, so now only you can be heard.
Okay, purport by Srila Prabhupada. In the Bhagavad Gita 6:41, it is stated that even a person who has failed in the proper discharge of yoga practice is given a chance to take birth in the house of devout brahmanas or in the house of rich men like Kshatriya kings or rich merchants. But Mahārāja Parīkṣit was more than that because he had been a great devotee of the Lord since his previous birth. And as such, he took his birth in an imperial family of the Kurus, and especially that of the Pāṇḍavas. So from the very beginning of his childhood, he had the chance to know intimately the devotional service of Lord Kṛṣṇa in his own family. The Pāṇḍavas, all being devotees of the Lord, certainly venerated family deities in the royal palace for worship. Children who appear in such families fortunately generally imitate such worship of the deities, even in the way of childhood play. By the grace of Lord Sri Kṛṣṇa, we had the chance of being born in a Vaishnava family. And in our childhood, we imitated the worship of Lord Kṛṣṇa by imitating our father. Our father encouraged us in all respects to observe all functions, such as the Rath Yatra and Doli Yatra ceremonies. And he used to spend money liberally for distributing prasad to us children and our friends. Our spiritual master, who also took his birth in a Vaishnava family, got all inspirations from his great Vaishnava father, Thakur Bhaktivinoda. That is the way of all lucky Vaishnava families. The celebrated Mirabai was a staunch devotee of Lord Kṛṣṇa as the great lifter of Govardhan Hill. Continuing the purport. The life history of many such devotees is almost the same because there is always symmetry between the early lives of all great devotees of the Lord. According to Jiva Goswami, Mahārāja Parīkṣit must have heard about the childhood pastimes of Lord Kṛṣṇa at Vrindavan, for he used to imitate the pastimes with his young playmates. According to Sridhar Swami, Mahārāja Parīkṣit used to imitate the worship of the family deity by elderly members. Srila Vishnaval Chakravarti also confirms the viewpoint of Jiva Goswami. So accepting either of them, Mahārāja Parīkṣit was naturally inclined to Lord Kṛṣṇa from his very childhood. He might have imitated either of the above-mentioned activities, and all of them establish his great devotion from his very childhood, a symptom of a Mahabhagavata. Such Mahabhagavatas are called Nitya Siddhas, or souls liberated from birth. But there are also others who may not be liberated from birth, but who develop a tendency for devotional service by association. And they are called sadhana siddhas. There's no difference between the two in the ultimate issue. And so the conclusion is that everyone can become a sadhana siddha, a devotee of the Lord, simply by association with the pure devotees. The concrete example is our great spiritual master, Sri Narada Muni. In his previous life, he was simply a boy of a maidservant. But through association with great devotees, he became a devotee of the Lord of his own standard, unique in the history of devotional service. Om Jnana Timirandasya Gyananjana Salakaya Chakshus Unmanitam Nena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha Shri Chaitanya Manobhishtam Stapitam Nena Bhutale Swayam Upakadamayam Dadanti Swapadantikam. Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Srivasadi Gaur Bhaktavinda. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Vanchakopa Tubhischa, Sindhu Beva Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha. Savai Bhagavato Raja Pandaveyo Mahārataha Bala Kridanakai Kridam Krishna Kridam Yaadade. Mahārāja Parīkṣit, the grandson of the Pāṇḍavas, was from his very childhood a great devotee of the Lord. Even while playing with dolls, he used to worship Lord Kṛṣṇa by imitating the worship of the family deity. So here we have a great Mahārāja Parīkṣit. He was a great devotee of Kṛṣṇa from his childhood, and Prabhu says then he's considered to be a Mahabhagavata, a Nityasiddha, someone who is liberated from birth. But we shouldn't be discouraged. We can also become Mahabhagavatas if we were not born a Nityasiddha by Sadhana Siddha. And Prabhu says in the ultimate sense there's no difference. And he uses so many examples. His spiritual master was one, Narada Muni, and he's born that way. And he used himself. Srila Prabhupada also used himself. So maybe in the future we'll say, our children will say the same thing. Yes, I was Nityasiddha from birth. But here we have the grandson of Arjuna, Subhadra's son, a very powerful person. Abhimanyu was a great Maharata, but he was also a Bhagavata. So it doesn't matter whether you're a Kshatriya, Vaishya, Sudra, whatever, you can become also a great Bhagavata. So Abhimanyu, great devotee, his son was in the womb, who we're talking about now, in this womb of Uttara, his wife, Parīkṣit Maharaj. And that was fortunate because Abhimanyu was killed in the battle of Kurukshetra. He was ganged upon by the great Maharatis because Abhimanyu was so powerful. 16-year-old boy was wiping out the army like nobody's business. He was just amazingly, such a powerful Maharati. He can handle 1,000 other chariot warriors by himself. So he was creating havoc on the battlefield, and they ganged up on him. It took 7 Maharatis to take him down. That's how powerful he was. So we have a great, powerful personality, Mahārāja Parīkṣit, who we're talking about today. In his childhood, he was playing with Radha Krishna, with dolls, you see. So this is nice, how he took advantage of being born in a devotee family. So similarly, Prabhupada says Narada Muni was the same way, and we know Srila Prabhupada. And Prabhupada also mentions how he was in New Vrindavan, and one of the children, was there playing, and when the parents offered him a toy, and the child said, "No, toys are Maya." So this is beautiful, and Prabhupada wanted us to produce a new generation, actually, a new population, a very happy, peaceful society, like Vaikuntha. And simply how? By the natural tendencies of a child to play, simply by playing, by eating, by thinking Krishna. So Prabhupada wanted this. He wanted us all to become immediately Krishna conscious. So here Prabhupada mentions the great personality, Narada Muni, the son of Lord Brahma. And he's a great, as Prabhupada mentions, a great personality in his own right. What a great personality, and what he had done in this. We read about him in the Srimad Bhagavatam, all the great devotees he's made, from hunters to kings to children. He's done so many amazing things, enlightened people, and look at him in his own ecstasy. Sometimes he's his chest would expand and he'd break his Brahma thread. So this is the ecstasy of the devotees, and that's all they are. They're full and brimming with ecstasy, and they're willing to share it. They go everywhere and anywhere to distribute this transcendental knowledge. So that's one example of a great devotee. And then we have Mahārāja Parīkṣit, as mentioned here. He's imitating the worship of the family deity. It's very nice. He's got his play horse there, but also he has his deities. So he's doing artik. Very nice. And this is what Prabhupada wanted. The relationship between the father and the son is always sublime, Prabhupada mentions. And the father is naturally disposed with goodwill towards his son. So he's always ready to help the son to progress in life. But sometimes, the father's goodwill, in spite of it, the son sometimes becomes misguided because we all have personal independence. But every living entity, no matter how big or small he may be, he has this choice of independence. But if the son is unreservedly willing to be guided by the father, then the father is 10 times more eager to instruct and guide the child. So this is a child-son relationship, and we see this all throughout the Bhagavatam. Right now, in the Srimad Bhagavatam class, we're reading about Swayambhuva Manu, who was a great personality, a great son of, Lord Brahma, and this was after Lord Brahma had the 4 sons, Kumaras, and they refused to take a family life, and they became devotees. So that's good. He was disturbed about that, but yet when he heard from Manu, and who was created from himself and his wife, and they actually agreed to follow his instructions and to be instructed by him. He was very much eager to give them Vedic wisdom. And he wanted them to instruct this wisdom to all their descendants, all their children. He wanted them to beget children and rule in pursuance of the principles of devotional service to Krishna. This is how, they perform yajna, by creating children and then training them up to become devotees of Krishna so that they can perform, as mentioned in this verse, Krishna Kriya, activities for Krishna or devotional service. So that's the purpose of creation, is to beget nice children. That's all Brahma is his purpose. That's what he wanted to do. Beget nice children, and then only for the purpose of worshiping the Supreme Personality of Godhead. This is the Varnashram system. By the proper discharge of a Varnashram, we can satisfy Krishna. There's no hindrance to that. And we see the 4 Kumaras, they didn't have to do the Varnashram system because they're already devotees. But if we're going to lead society in such a way, then the children have to be trained up properly. And this is the process of devotional service. So this is what the Lord Brahma wanted them to do, to protect the living beings in the mature world. And that would be the best service for the Father. And then when Krishna sees that you're doing this, you're being a good protector for the conditioned souls, then he'll be pleased with you. And if Krishna is pleased with you, then what cannot be attained. So that's the whole administrative system. This great king here, the whole purpose of the administrative system is to help us to go back to Godhead, right? Go back home. So Brahma is a representative of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, and Manu and all the other kings below him also, they're representatives of Lord Brahma. So everywhere, on all planets of the universe, there's different Manus, there's different representatives, and therefore that's why the law books are there. The Manu Samhita, the Vedic literatures, all these transcendental literatures are meant so that we can become educated in Vishnu worship and devotional service to the master of the senses, Hrishikesh. See, the kings, they weren't so interested in just their own sense gratification. They were interested in pleasing Hrishikesh, the senses of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. And this is the secret. So if one does this, then he's perfect as an administrator, a father, a king. And then, if not, then Prabhupada mentions how they're just show bottle administrators. So we must train the citizens in devotional service. And then they can be responsible. If not, then they'll be punishable, actually. This is what's happening. The society is punished, they're punished. So there isn't really any other alternative to discharging our duties as heads, administrators, parents. And look at the result of his training. He was very much upholding the principles of religion. When Kali was entered into his kingdom, he was ready to kill him. Very powerful king. Following the footsteps of his father and his grandfather. So this is Mahārāja Parīkṣit. And we see throughout his life he was very pious, but Kṛṣṇa made an arrangement where somehow or another he became thirsty, and the sage was in actual trance. He was in meditation where he's completely internally absorbed, completely free from all external consciousness. And Mahārāja Parīkṣit thought he was being offended because he didn't offer him water. He just sat there. So, because he was cold, he saw a dead cold snake, he put it around his neck, tit for tat. It was actually, but then he did that, he realized that that was wrong. So he was a good soul. So, somehow or another that happened by Kṛṣṇa's arrangement. And what happened? This was the reason he got cursed by that, and then that's why we're here today, narrating this transcendental message of the Srimad Bhagavatam, due to this young boy who was trained in devotional service. He was trained, and instead of trying to, again, tit for tat, counteract the curse, he actually took the humble position, and he sat on the bank of the holy river and wanted to inquire, what is the purpose of life? What should one do at the time of death? And all the sages and everyone there accepted Sukadeva Goswami as the leader of the assembly there. And here he becomes enlightened. Supposedly he's a king, a Kshatriya, right? We just talked about he was a Mahabhagavata. And we know Sukadeva Goswami is for sure. But Prabhu says there's actually no difference. They're both Mahabhagavatas. The hearer and the speaker. So this is nice. One may seem that it doesn't matter, like externally one can look like a king, or externally one may look like a renounced, doesn't even wear clothes. But still, there's no hindrance to becoming a Mahabhagavat. And at the end, he was completely fearless of dying. He had no fear whatsoever. He said, just let the snake bird or whatever magical thing this foolish boy has created, just let him come. And look, there he is, going back home, back to Godhead. He fulfilled his mission. We may think, irresponsible king giving up his kingdom, but actually he didn't give up his kingdom. He did, but he actually left the instructions because of his inquiring at the bank of the holy river. He left the Srimad Bhagavatam for all mankind, all future generations, not only his kingdom at that time, but look at even now in the future here. It's by his devotional service, by his Krishna Kriya, his activities of Krishna consciousness, Bhakti Yoga, that we're here reciting Srimad Bhagavatam today. So, let's hear about another such dear devotee of Lord Kṛṣṇa. Because Prabhupada says here, not only must they hear about the activities of the Lord, but they must also hear about the transcendental qualities of the devotees. We're constantly thinking of the lotus feet of the Lord within our hearts. A pure devotee of the Lord cannot be separated from the lotus feet of the Lord for even a moment. So we're not only supposed to hear about the activities of Kṛṣṇa, but we're also meant to hear about the qualities and transcendental activities of the devotees, because they're related to Kṛṣṇa. So that's why we're hearing about Mahārāja Parīkṣit, Narada Muni, because it says here, the devotees, however, realize the presence of the Lord, and therefore they can always see the lotus feet of the Lord within their hearts. Such pure devotees of the Lord are as glorious as the Lord. They are in fact recommended by the Lord as more worshipable than He Himself. Worship of the devotee is more potent than worship of the Lord. It is therefore the duty of the transcendental students to hear of pure devotees as explained by similar devotees of the Lord, because one cannot explain about the Lord or his devotees unless one happens to be a pure devotee himself. So here's the key. We must become pure, we must become devotees of ourselves, and then we can actually share this message. So here we're seeing what the devotees are like. So let's look at such great personality as Srila Prabhupada, who also mentions that he had the fortune in his youth to imitate the worship of the family deity by his pure devotee father, very responsible father. It's so nice. Prabhupada always quotes that nice verse about in which Sri Prahlad says, Kumara charet pragno dharman bhagavatan iha durlabam manusam janma tadapi adruvam artadam. So Prahlad Maharaj said, one who is sufficiently intelligent should use a human form of life from the very beginning of life, in other words, from the tender age of childhood, to practice the activities of devotional service, giving up all other engagements. The human body is most rarely achieved, and although temporary like other bodies, it is meaningful because in the human life, one can perform devotional service. This is the Krishna Kriya. Even a slight amount of sincere devotional service can give one complete perfection. So that's the whole purpose of Vedic civilization. And that's why we read these Vedic literatures, is to attain that perfectional stage of devotional service. And that can only be attained in the human form of life. So according to the Vedic system, Prabhupada mentions how from the very beginning of life, one is taught this system of hearing. They're taught the life of brahmacharya. They're taught how to develop character. You see, then one can modify human activities so that he can engage in devotional service. You know, one is protected. Even a little advancement in the path can protect one from the most dangerous type of fear. But it's so unfortunate today that modern civilization, it's not referring to the verdicts of the Vedic literature. So it's the cruel members. Cruel, they're not devotees, they're cruel members of human society. Instead of teaching children to become brahmacharis, it teaches them, the mothers, to kill the children in the womb, just on the plea of curbing the increase of population. But if by chance a child is saved and educated, from this, not just educated in sense gratification, then he can be saved. But otherwise, the entire society we see now, in fact, the entire world, is losing interest in the perfection of life. Prabhupada mentions how they're becoming just like cats and dogs. They're spoiling the duration of their human lives. And they're preparing themselves to transmigrate in the 8,400,000 species of life. So this is the whole purpose of our Krishna consciousness movement. And we'll see how this little boy, Abhay Charan, and we know him as Srila Prabhupada, what he did. So this is the Krishna consciousness movement. He started a movement. Just like, King Parīkṣit, was narrated the Srimad Bhagavatam for all human society. And we see what Srila Prabhupada started. The Shravanam, Kirtanam, Vishnu, this 9 items of devotional service. He wanted to create schools, colleges, temples, different activities, just to teach these people how to protect and perfect their life, so that they won't fall down into this animal life. And he showed us, Sri Prabhupada showed us how easy it is in this age. Just like it says in the Shastras, Harinama, Harinama, Harinama Kevalam, Kalo Nasti, Vinasti, Vinasti, Vigatirnita. That one only needs to chant the Mahā Mantra, that's it. And then you'll be completely cleansed. That's why we have to become cleansed, We have to become cleansed. This is what Prahlad Maharaj is explaining to his demoniac friends, that we have to become free, completely cleansed, so that we can be saved from the cycle of birth and death. So let's see what this little boy was doing. Look, he was imitating, worshipping the family deity. He was performing Rath Yatras, and they were encouraged. Look at the family made a big thing out of it. They invited all the neighbors, all the friends. They cooked up a feast. They made a huge thing out of it. It's very nice. Just see what kind of impression that leaves on the child. This is Srila Prabhupada. And then as he grew up, he was eager and he actually met his spiritual master, Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Goswami, who was the Mahabhagavata, a liberated soul from birth. In fact, he was known as a ray of Vishnu. What a great fortune this personality has to meet such a person. So Srila Prabhupada was very thoughtful, always writing essays and studying Krishna consciousness, preparing himself, until finally he took initiation. Accepted him as his spiritual master. And this is the process. We receive this knowledge through the parampara system, from spiritual master to disciple. And the disciple becomes spiritual master. Then he also gets disciples. And this goes on like that. It's a transcendental system called the parampara system. And then he accepted instructions from his spiritual master. Even though he was a family man, he told him, hey, we've created this Gaudiya Math, nice temple out of marble, and I wish we could just dismantle and sell the marble, because now there's fire in the Math. All the disciples are fighting over who gets which room. He's very disappointed about that. And he said, if you ever get money, print books. And this was his instruction. He took his instruction to heart. And here, Srila Prabhupada was producing literatures. His wife sold his Bhagavata sets for tea biscuits. And finally Prabhupada said, it's either tea or me. She picked up the teacup. So that was the sign. Prabhupada was going to take it, Krishna consciousness, and follow his spiritual master full time. So Prabhupada would go and pass out his Back to Godhead magazine. Everywhere he would go to the city, go to different restaurants. He'd be on distribution, transcendental book distribution. Personally, he would do that. He would go and give lectures. He'd try to start League of Devotees in India. He was always thinking, always engaged in Krishna consciousness. See, there wasn't a moment when he wasn't thinking of Krishna. Always arranging to get his magazines, his books published. This looks like a Srimad Bhagavatam sheet. Arranging with the printer himself, going there, doing so many things. And eventually, what happens? He brings his books to America. He comes to the park and chants, and he meets some nice devotees. You see Mukunda Maharaj, you see Jayananda. So many different devotees came. And this is where he started the Hare Krishna movement in America. Srila Prabhupada came with his transcendental literatures, and he would give classes, bringing the books to life, talking about Krishna and Arjuna, great warriors, like we're reading about today, grandson of Arjuna, and hearing about Krishna, his wonderful activities, how he protects his devotees. Such a loving relationship. And here he is. Prabhupada brought us huge festivals, Rath Yatra. Look at that, from his childhood to this in America, not only here in San Francisco, but all over the world. There's tons of Rath Yatras going on everywhere. Creating festivals and temples. Harinam Sankirtan in the streets all over the world, bringing the deities to people. All Krishna conscious activities, giving them a chance to hear about Krishna. Look at wonderful festivals. depicting the holy festival, Krishna, gopis throwing colors. And here they're all chanting, thousands of people now going all over, chanting Hare Krishna. And, jumping, dancing, chanting, taking prasadam, seeing the temple, seeing the deities. So this is real life, real society, opening temples all over the world. I mean, I just go on the internet and search under ISKCON temples and you'll find all these. I just took a few. Some of them aren't very good quality, but temples being built, huge arrangements, churches being bought, because now Christianity and certain religions are all seeing that they have no substance. People are not satisfied. They do not really know, are they either they're not following or they're not, people are not interested anymore because they're not getting any taste. They're missing Krishna, devotional service, Krishna Kriya. Temples all over the world. I think this one's in Africa. Here's Los Angeles. Devotees. Look at that. This was a church also that was sold because nobody was coming. And shoes are everywhere now. We have to get racks on the side so people don't trip over the shoes. There's so many shoes coming in. And here, great places of study and learning are being
Gauda is on hold. Isn't that strange? Hope he figures this out. Must have got a phone call or something. Uh-oh. Let's see.
Okay, I guess I was on hold. Yeah, I'm here now.
Okay.
Someone called, and so it took me off hold. So here we are showing Prabhupada's what he had created, this young boy, from being trained in his youth. What he has started worldwide. I mean, what he has done is greater than kings, greater than presidents, greater than world leaders, what he has done. He's actually fulfilling the wish of Lord Brahma to the Manus to actually protect society by giving them knowledge of Krishna and protect them from birth, old age, disease, and death, and to ultimately go back home, back to Godhead. Here's Detroit in America, there's a temple in India. Just go on and on. Temples everywhere. Another church. There's a manor, people donating. This was donated by George Harrison. Another temple, another country. Even homes, simple homes, also being converted into temples. Also huge, elaborate buildings being converted into temples. Not only just temples, but they're being filled with devotees. This is in Chicago, packed. Srila Prabhupada there, he's still with us. And other parts of the world, beautiful. Using their talents, painting, beautiful construction, deity worship, preaching. I think this is New York. That looks like Rambhadra. Temples packed. Look at the children there, all being trained in Krishna consciousness, with plays, with dolls, Krishna dolls. Look what's happening in society today. Beautiful deity worship. Just as Prabhupada was imitating the deity worship, now look what he's teaching. He's teaching the same thing throughout the world to his disciples, who are also become gurus, and they're teaching their disciples. You can see the disciplic succession on the altar there. Very nice. Some more beautiful deities. Some of you may recognize where these are. I think this is in London. Krishna Balaram. These are all just pictures I took from the internet. There is Lord Jagannath, Balaram, Subhadra, Panchatattva. There's everywhere now. Devotees are distributing books, giving deities of Gaur Nitai selling Gaudacandra deities along with the books. Prabhu said we should do that, install Gaudacandra deities in every home. Beautiful deity worship, beautiful clothes, all the arts, so many different ways of Krishna Kriya, engaging in devotional service to Krishna. Look at this, Srila Prabhupada has brought to us such beautiful deities. Rukmini Dwarkadish. And there's Prabhupada. He is still with us. He's our deity, and we're following him. This glorification is taught us. There's another nice verse Prabhupada would always quote from the 10th canto, Nirvitar Tarsharu Pagyaminad, Bhavo Sadat Chotra Mano Biramat, Ka Uttama Sloka Gunanuvadat, Puman Rajeta Vina Pasugnat. So just like in the verse it says that, we have to actually hear and chant about Krishna to properly take use of this human form of life. The translation is, glorification of the Supreme Personality of God is performed in the Parampara system. That is, it is conveyed from spiritual master to disciple. Such glorification is relished by those no longer interested in the false temporary glorification of this cosmic manifestation. Descriptions of the Lord are the right medicine for the conditioned soul, undergoing repeated birth and death. Therefore, who will cease hearing such glorification of the Lord? Except a butcher or one who is killing his own self. So this is the process of Krishna consciousness. Prabhupada created these ISKCON temples. They're like turning into villages now, where they can have the Krishna Katha morning and evening. And that's how it used to be in the Vedic times. Even in India recently, Prabhupada said. When he was young, he used to see that. He used to go to villages, visit different family relations, and in the evening, they'd all gather together and recite Srimad Bhagavatam, Ramayana, the Mahabharata. So if we hear these glorifications of Krishna, then certainly we're going to be released from the bondage of material activities. And Prabhupada warned that we shouldn't just hear from professional reciters, but that we should hear from devotees, as mentioned here in the Parampara system. People are interested in hearing so much nonsense. So many wasty crow-like literatures. They're so attached to their newspapers and so many different things. Prabhupada gave a nice story about how, there was a devotee preaching somewhere, and he was telling them, these miners, how they're, that they have to take up whatever it was, either Christianity or something, some preacher, and he said that, you have to take up, this service to worship Christ. And they said, well, who is this Christ? What's his number? Because they thought he was one of them, had a number like they have, worker's number. And they said, no, he's the Son of God. And they said, well, yeah, if you don't, serve the Lord, then you're going to go to hell. And they said, what is hell? And they described it. It's cold, dark, damp. And it's just like the mines. And they thought they didn't say anything. But then he said, okay, in hell there's no newspapers. And they said, oh, horrible. This is how they're attached to their mundane literatures. But if we could just get them to hear these transcendental literatures, Bhagavad Gita, Srimad Bhagavatam, it'll be pleasing. And they'll be free from all these threefold miseries of material existence. But people who are, as Prabhupada mentioned in the verse here, pasugnat, that they're like a butcher, people who are eating meat, or they're killers of animals, or also people who are killing of themselves, not taking up Krishna consciousness. That's also another term of pasugnat. So this is what we had. We had the hearer. There was the Krishna Katha. We had Sukadev Goswami was the speaker. We had Mahārāja Parīkṣit, the hearer. And now down through disciplic succession, we have coming down through Srila Prabhupada to his disciples. So this is it. This is how it goes. So this is how we have these practical examples of Mahārāja Parīkṣit, Narada Muni, even Dhruva Maharaj, Srila Prabhupada. So this is our process. So today we get the chance to hear about some more Krishna Katha. Today Ramananda asked me to talk about Lord Rahadev's appearance day. Actually, it's tomorrow here in Los Angeles. I don't know when it is there in Hawaii, but Anyway, this is a great...
Today is Lord Vara's appearance day.
Oh, it's today in Hawaii? Oh, okay.
Yeah, tomorrow is Nityananda's appearance day.
Wow, you guys are a day ahead of us and everything. So yeah, we get the mercy of Lord Varahadev. He was the, incarnation of Krishna who comes as a boar to save the earth from the ocean, which had fallen down in the ocean. So Krishna could take any form. And when he takes that form, he can play that role exactly. So just in order to find the earth, the Lord Brahma was wondering and contemplating what to do because the earth had fallen. He was busy in creation, so the earth had fallen into the ocean. So he just was contemplating what to do, and then while he was contemplating, a little boar came out of his nose, and he became huge like a mountain. And they were astonished with wonder that this could only be the Supreme Personality of Godhead. So he began to smell like a boar does, smell the earth. So he dived deep into the ocean there, it's the Garbhodak Ocean. And when he dived, it's like his foothooves are like razor sharp, and it just cut the ocean practically in two. And, went down deep, even though it said it was endless, he found the end of it and saw the earth, smelled the earth, and he rescued it and brought it out. In this way, he saved the earth from being inundated. And then, since it's a nice appearance day, we'll glorify the Lord. All the sages uttered with great respect. All unconquerable and joy of all sacrifices, all glories and all victories unto you. You are moving in your form of the personified Vedas, and in the hair holes of your body the oceans are submerged. For certain reasons, to uplift the earth, you have now assumed the form of a boar. O Lord, your form is worshipable by performances of sacrifice, but souls who are simply miscreants are unable to see it. All the Vedic hymns, Gayatri and others, are in the touch of your skin, in your bodily hairs as the kusha grass, in your eyes is the clarified butter, and in your forelegs are the 4 kinds of fruitive activities. O Lord, your tongue is the plate of sacrifice. Your nostril is another plate of sacrifice. In your belly is the eating plate of sacrifice. And another plate of sacrifice is the holes of your ears. In your mouth is the Brahma plate of sacrifice. Your throat is a plate of sacrifice known as Soma. And whatever you chew is known as Agnihotra. Moreover, O Lord, the repetition of your appearance is a desire for all kinds of initiation. Your neck is the place for the 3 desires, and your tusks are the results of initiation and the end of all desires. Your tongue is the prior activities of initiation. Your head is the fire without sacrifice, as well as the fire of worship. And your living forces are the aggregate of all desires. O Lord, your semen is a sacrifice called Soma Yajna. Your growth is the ritualistic performances of the morning. Your skin and touch sensations are the 7 elements of the Agni Stoma sacrifice. Your bodily joints are symbols of various other sacrifices performed in 12 days. Therefore, you're the object of all sacrifices called Soma and Asoma, and you're bound by Yajnas only. So they go on. There's a few more prayers by the demigods to Lord Boar as he appeared and saved the earth. O Lord, you are the Supreme Personality of Godhead and are worshipable by the universal prayers, Vedic hymns, and sacrificial ingredients. We offer our obeisances unto you. You can be realized by the pure mind, freed from all visible and invisible material contamination. We offer our respectful obeisances to you as a supreme spiritual master of knowledge in devotional service. So this is how we have to pure our minds so we can realize him, and through these transcendental literatures, these pastimes. O lifter of the earth with its mountains, which you have lifted with your tusks, is situated as beautifully as a lotus flower, with leaves sustained by an infuriated elephant, just coming out of the water. O Lord, as the peaks of the great mountains become beautiful when decorated with clouds, your transcendental body has become beautiful because of your lifting the earth on the edge of your tusks. O Lord, for the residential purposes of all inhabitants, both moving and non-moving, this earth is your wife, and you are the Supreme Father. We offer our respectful obeisances unto you, along with Mother Earth, in whom you have invested your own potency, just as an expert sacrificer puts fire in the Arani wood. Who else but you, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, could deliver the earth from within the water? It is not very wonderful for you, however, because you acted most wonderfully in the creation of the universe. By your energy, you have created this wonderful cosmic manifestation. O Supreme Lord, undoubtedly we are inhabitants of the most pious planets, the Jana, Tapas, and Satya Lokas, but still we have been purified by the drops of water sprinkled from your shoulder hairs, by the shaking of your body. So they're actually considered non-different, like the Ganges, whether it comes from his feet or his hair, it's all purifying. Okay, so I got another call, so unfortunately. Oh Lord, there is no limit to your wonderful activities. Anyone who desires to know the limit of your activities is certainly nonsensical. Everyone in this world is conditioned by the powerful mystic potencies. Please bestow your causeless mercy upon these conditioned souls. So I thought it'd be nice to glorify Lord Varahadev, these wonderful prayers by the demigods. And then Lord Varahadev kills the demoniac king, this demon. He just simply smashes him. I think he hit him on the ear, didn't he, or something too? But here, great battle between Hiranyaksha and Lord Boar. You can see the power, how huge they must have been. Practically as big as planets, it looks like. It's amazing, the pastimes of the Lord. And this is how we become absorbed in Krishna consciousness, Kriya. This is Krishna Kriya activities. And Lord Boar also appeared just 500 years ago when Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, he was in ecstasy as Varaha Murti. He appeared in front of Murari Gupta, and Murari Gupta offered him some wonderful prayers. And let's hear some of these. Who Murari Gupta, he was actually a physician. And it says here that he could treat both bodily and spiritual disease because he was a physician by profession and a great devotee of the Lord in terms of spiritual advancement. So this is an example of service to humanity. Everyone should know that there are two kinds of diseases in human society. One disease, which is called Adhyatmika, or material disease, pertains to the body, but the main disease is spiritual. The living entity is eternal, but somehow or other, when in contact with the material energy, he is subjected to the repetition of birth, death, old age, and disease. So the physicians of modern day should learn from Murari Gupta. Although modern philanthropic physicians open gigantic hospitals, there are no hospitals to cure the material disease of the spirit soul. The Krishna consciousness movement has taken up the mission of curing this disease, but people are not very appreciative because they do not know what this disease is. Just see what Prabhupada did. Created a hospital to create the material disease. A diseased person needs both proper medicine and proper diet, and therefore the Krishna consciousness movement supplies materially stricken people with the medicine of the chanting of the holy name, or the Hare Krishna Maha Mantra, and the diet of prasadam. There are many hospitals and medical clinics to cure bodily diseases, but there are no such hospitals to cure the material disease of the spirit soul. The centers of the Krishna consciousness movement are the only established hospitals that can cure man of birth, death, old age, and disease. This is a purport that Prabhupada gave when one of those verses where Lord Varahadev appeared to this devotee, Murari Gupta. So, to conclude here, if one hears and describes in a devotional service attitude this auspicious narration of Lord Boar, which is worthy of description, the Lord who is within the heart of everyone is very pleased. So here we're pleasing the Lord simply by hearing about him and describing him. We're just summarizing him. The Lord is in our heart and he knows. And he knows our motive. So Prabhupada says that one merely has to become sincere in his purpose, and then the Lord will help him in every way. Nothing remains unachieved when the Supreme Personality of Godhead is pleased with someone. By transcendental achievement, one understands everything else to be insignificant. One who engages in transcendental loving service is elevated to the highest perfectional stage by the Lord himself, who is situated in everyone's heart. So it's not only this is the medicine, but it's like nectar. It's not like bitter medicine that we refuse to drink, but this nectar, this medicine is tasty, it's sweet, it's amazing. So who other than one who is not a human being can exist in this world and not be interested in the ultimate goal of life? Who can refuse the nectar of narrations about the personality of Godhead's activities, which by itself can deliver one from all material pangs? So here again, it's like that other verse, that only an animal, as Prabhupada says, they're non-human beings, other who's not a human being, would refuse. So these are people who are like animals, or their behaviors like animals. They're not interested in the transcendental messages of the Lord. So there's many books, there's many histories of the world, but except for the histories and narrations of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, like Lord Brahadev, which today you're celebrating in Hawaii, none of them are capable of diminishing the burdens of material pangs except these transcendental literatures. So if we're serious about eliminating this material existence, then we always must chant and hear about the transcendental activities of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Otherwise, like it said here, we must be compared to non-humans. So just see what Prabhupada has brought, to this world. Beautiful verse. Here's a beautiful verse. We'll end with this verse, actually, glorifying the Lord in Lord Brahadev. Vasanti dasana sikkare dharani tava lagna sashini kalanka kalevani mangna keshavadrita sukharupa jaya jagadishare. All glories to Lord Keshava, Kṛṣṇa, who appeared as the boar. The earth was held between his tusks, which appeared like the scars on the moon. That was by the poet Jayadev, of course. So just see the impressions that we get in our youth. Childhood impressions, what it can do. Just see one pure devotee to the Prabhupada, what he did all over the world. We just had a glimpse. And he's given us a glimpse of this transcendental message of all the pastimes of Kṛṣṇa. Specifically Lord bore today. Just think, that's one devotee, one pure devotee. And Srila Prabhupada has created many devotees. And if we just think what the future is like, can you imagine? So I'll open up now for comments or questions. Sorry to go over a little late.
Oh, no problem, Prabhu. It's okay.
Lord Brahadev's appearance day. I guess everyone's fasting.
We can take one or two questions or comments. I'd like to interject one just real quick.
Sure.
Or does anybody know for sure what Dole Yatra is? I looked it up in the Sanskrit dictionary. It's just a little confusing. It looks like it's maybe the swing festival. Anybody know for sure? We mentioned Srath Yatra and Dole Yatra in the purport.
Sure. Could be. I know Julian Yatra means swing festival. But we could look it up.
I always heard it was another name for the festival also.
Oh, okay. Jai.
It's another name for what?
Hare Krishna.
I couldn't hear what she said.
Something. Maybe the same thing.
Okay, we have time for maybe. I couldn't.
Her voice comes in and out.
Another name for the swing festival is what I always heard.
Oh, okay.
Oh, okay. Yeah. There's that it actually means swing. Dole is swing, but it looks like it also could be a palanquin festival, even a boat festival. But anyway, maybe it's just a general term. I wasn't sure.
Sounds like doll festival. Dolls. Krishna dolls. But yeah. Jai.
All right. Well, we are a little bit over. Nobody else has anything they wanted to add?
Oh, I have a question. I was just remaining silent to see if anyone else wanted to ask a question first. But if I've got the floor, go to G. Wonderful class.
It came through okay?
Oh, amazing. And I really like having the visuals. It's great, especially when you're reading. You could follow right along. I like how that just kind of scrolled along, and it seems to keep, at least in my particular case, keeps my mind really sharp or sharper. Really
I thought that would be better than just having the whole thing right there immediately in your face. It's too much, and then just gradually bring it in. I thought it'd be easier to follow.
Very effective, because my mind has a tendency to sort of space out when there's a reading. And but when you did it that way, it was very effective. It really had me reading every word and concentrating much better. I want to ask a question. I guess I've asked this before in other classes at times when this subject comes up. I'm interested in your take on it, because you talked a lot about childhood impressions. That was really the thrust of your class.
Mm-hmm.
Why do you think that within our society we see such failure in this area? We see some successes, but there seems to be more, a little disappointing from what I would have expected. Prabhupada used to tell us that the demigods were waiting in line to take birth, and I was thinking, back in the early 70s, okay, now I'm preaching, but pretty soon I'm going to be like pulled off stage because all the new bullies. And nobody's going to want to hear Mahārāja speak anymore when the new generation kicks in. I mean, they're going to kick butt. And what happened? Why? And even we see in Prabhupada's own children and Advaita Acharya. I think he had 4 sons, 2 of which not so interested. Achyutananda, of course, a great son. But why do you think, in spite of our children getting such great exposure from childhood, that so many, they're just not that interested? I mean, often they're a little favorable, but we don't see many of them becoming sadhakas and really taking this up as their life and soul. Do you have any thoughts on that? And maybe there isn't an answer other than the fact it's Kali Yuga, but I was wondering what your thoughts are.
Yeah, I mean, Prabhupada mentions how it's a responsibility of the parents, and if the children actually don't take up Krishna consciousness or become devotees of Krishna, he says it's pretty much their fault. I mean, but yet he says that they're all independent, even though, the father may have good intentions. It could be because of his misuse of his personal independence of the child. So we all, no matter how big we are or small we are, we have this choice of independence. So that's part of the problem there. And also I think because Kali is so strong that he is actually attacking the younger generation in our movement. Just like he attacked the Brahmana boy who cursed Mahārāja Parīkṣit, who we're talking about today. He found some fault in this Brahmana boy and entered. So I think he's entering into our, younger generation in our movement, and is attacking in that way. He's ruthless. I mean, this is his time. I mean, there's nothing more powerful than one whose time has come. So Kali is very powerful, but also we have to not lose hope because it's time for Lord Chaitanya. It's much more powerful. The Mahamantra, the chanting Hare Krishna. And, we can't really say right now. I mean, it looks that way. I mean, I see a lot of the kids in LA. I mean, this is like a prime example. Some of the kids that have gone off, but, a lot of the boys that were not doing so good and stuff. And, parents, I think, should just stay as an example, not get sidetracked. And right now, many of the neighborhood children, they're grown up now in their 20s, and they've been working, they've been doing different things, getting into all kinds of weird things, stupid things and stuff, but still, they all for the first time went to India. They're in India now, going to Vrindavan. They all have devotees on tilak. They're going on parikrama. They're doing so many things. There's always hope. I mean, we weren't born Mahābhagavatas. Sometimes due to their karma, due to bad influences, I mean, in this age, it's very difficult, so much distractions. So it behooves us to become more and more expert, more and more using all means, some another, figure out how, to engage these kids. And it seems like it's doing. A lot of them, their talents are amazing what these children are doing in Krishna consciousness. I mean, there's nothing they can't do. There's actually nothing they can't do. Some of them are so talented. So we just have to remain fixed, be examples, and pray to Krishna. And I think it will come out.
Nice answer, Prabhu. Thank you.
Jai, that's a good point. Very important point. We should always be reminded of that. Thank you for bringing that up. Is there any other comments, questions? Jai. Saramanada.
All right. Thank you, Gaudacandra Prabhu. We have
Jai.
we have 17 devotees on right now. So thank you very much.
Great.